Hey everyone, this week we are learning to understand powers of 10 and how when we multiply something by 10 or a number of tens, like multiple tens, we find out how that number changes and how it shifts. So let's go ahead and get started. So think about it for a minute. If I can multiply the number 5 by 10, I get what? 50, right? Okay, so what if I multiply 50 by 10? That's going to be 500, right? What if I multiply it by another 10? It would be 5,000, right? So it seems that every time we multiply that number by 10, we add a 0 to the right of that number, okay? So really, 5 times 10 times 10 times 10 would equal 5,000. And another way to write this would be, we learned this in class, it would be 5 times 10 to the third power. Okay, because how many tens do we see here? I'll use blue. How many tens do we see here? 1, 2, 3. So we're multiplying 5 by 3 groups of 10. So 5 times 10 times 10 times 10, or 5 times 10 to the third power. And if you noticed, it looks like we are moving that 5, right? In 5,000 right there, we started with 5 and we multiplied it by 10. And we shift this 5 over to the left and add a 0 in the place where it stood at first. So now we have 50, right? It's like it shifted from where this is one place to the tens place, right? And then we move, whenever we multiply that by 10 again, it's like the 5 shifts one more time and we end up with 500, right? It shifted 2 places. And then whenever we multiply one more time by 10, we're going to shift it one more time and we have 5,000. Okay, so our 5 has gone from the ones place to the tens place to the hundreds place, now to the thousands place, only by multiplying that number by 10 3 times. Okay, and it works the same whenever we divide. So I'm going to erase. It works the exact same way when we divide. So if I had, just imagine, if I have 5,000, okay, and then I divide that number by 10, my 5 is going to shift one place to the right instead of the left, right? My number is getting smaller. So instead of 5,000, I would now have 500. And if I divide that by 10, I'm going to move my 5 one place to the right, and that gives me 50, right? And then if I divide that by 10, I'm left with a 5 in the ones place, right? And we can continue to go down. So if you look at number 1, it says 6 divided by 10. So let's look at 5 divided by 10 up here in my example first. So if I have 5 and I divide it by 10, where's my decimal in a whole number? I'm going to use a green. My decimal is going to be right there, to the right side of the whole number, right? If I divide that 5 by 10, I'm going to simply shift it one place to the right, just like I did over here, and here, and here, right? We're going to do the same thing here. We're going to shift the 5 to the right one place, and then I'm left with 5/10, right? And if I shift it again, divide by 10, I'm left with 5/100. Okay, so can you see the pattern? Awesome. All right, so if we look at number 1 now, okay, we have 6 divided by 10, okay? I know that if I have 6 and I divide that by 10, if I'm dividing, I'm shifting to the right. Okay, so I'm going to shift that number to the right. I know that my decimal, well, you can't see that. I'm sorry. I know that my decimal, I'll use red, is right there to the right side of that 6 because the 6 is a whole number, right? And we're dividing by 10, so we're moving across the decimal so that we can now have, instead of 6 as a whole number, we would have 0.6, which is also called 6/10. Okay, so let's look at this on the back of the homework because this is where you will answer. So here's your homework sheet, okay? But here is where you will answer. Okay, you're allowed to work it out on this sheet, okay? But you will answer on this side. All right. And this is on the back of your homework. So if we zoom in, we know that we have 6 divided by 10. So right now, and you don't have to write this down first, okay? You can work it out on the other paper and then write your answer, your final answer, like on number 1, okay? So if I have 6 ones divided by 10, I know that I'm going to shift that 6 one place to the right. So I end up, instead of 6 wholes, I have 6/10. Okay? Now, let's look at, well, before we move on, we have to know that if we have nothing on, if we have nothing on this side, okay, nothing on the left side of the decimal, that means we have no whole number. If we have no whole number, we must place a 0 in the ones place, right? We have to have a 0, because if not, you can't just have 0.6 or 0.7. You have to have 0 point whatever your decimal is, okay? Which really, we don't read it 0 point whatever. We read it as 6/10 or 600ths, right? So let's look at number 2. Number 2 says 6/10 divided by 10. So I can look at my example over here. I have 6/10, right, for number 1. And if I'm dividing by 10, I'm going to shift that 6 one place to the right. Okay, so I have 0, my decimal, and then I have another 0 and 6. That shows me that I have 600ths. Okay, because I just divided 6/10 by 10, and 1/10 of 6/10 is 600ths. Okay, now let's look at number 3, and this will be the last one that I do with you guys. So 6 divided by 100. Okay, this one's a little bit different because you're not dividing only by 10, you're dividing by 100, correct? So if you take 6 as your ones place, right? If you have 6 in the ones place, this is number 3. If you have 6 in the ones place and you divide it by 10, you're left with 6/10, right? Like we have up in the top. Okay, now if you divide it by 100, you're really moving 2 places instead of just 1, because 10 times 10, right? If I write it up here, 10 times 10 equals 100. So if I have 6 and I'm dividing it by 10 and dividing it by 10, then I'm really dividing that number by 100. Okay, so really if I say 6 divided by 100, I'm really dividing by 10 2 times. So I'm moving my number to the right 2 places because my number is losing value, right? If we're dividing, that first original number, 6, that whole 6, is losing value. It's losing 100 times its value. So we're moving that 6 to the right 2 places. And we end up with the same answer that we have in, number 2. We end up with the same answer of 600ths. Okay, now let's go down for a minute. I know you guys won't, we're not going to actually learn this until Wednesday. Okay, so Tuesday night you can work those top 6 problems. And then Wednesday, if you are not comfortable with the exponents yet, that's totally fine. We're going to learn that on Wednesday. Okay, so let's look at one that has an exponent. Let's look at number 8. Okay, number 8 says 3/10 times 10 to the second power. Okay, I'm going to zoom in here. So if I have 3/10, that's really big writing, but it's okay. 3/10 times 10 to the second power. So that means, here's what this means. 10 to the second power means I'm doing 10 times 10. Okay? That also means that I'm really multiplying by what? 100, right? So really, I am moving this 3 2 places to the left because it's gaining value, right? Because we're multiplying. We're not dividing, so we are gaining value. So we move the 3. You can even do like this right here, okay? And if you move that 3 to this position, we are left with 30, right? So 3/10 times 10 to the second, or 10 times 10, or 3/10 times 100, right, would be 30, because it's 100 times as much value as 3/10. So 30 is 100 times more than 3/10. So that's number 8. So we would write our answer as 30. Okay, let's try one more. If 10 to the second is 100, notice this. We have 2 as the exponent, right? How many zeros do we have in the number 100? 2, right? So I'm going to let you guess. if we have a 3 as the exponent in this number, 10 to the third power, how many zeros are going to be in the number that we're multiplying? 3. So instead of just 10, you are multiplying by 1,000. And really, this shows that we're multiplying by 3 groups of 10. So 10 times 10 times 10, which is the same as 1,000, right? So if we have 0.3, which is 3/10, and we are multiplying by 1,000, or 3 groups of 10, we need to move that 3 to the left 3 places, 3 place values, because it's gaining 1,000 times its value. So we take that 3 and move it 3 places, 1, 2, 3, right? And whenever we rewrite our number, we have what? 300. So you can write it on this side and then go fill in number 9 as 300. And you guys are going to be able to work out the rest of these problems. Don't let the exponent scare you. Just remember that exponent shows how many zeros we're really multiplying by, or how many spaces to the left or to the right we are moving. And always remember, if we are multiplying, that means we move to the left. We move that digit to the left. But if we are dividing, we move that digit to the right. So as always, if you have any questions, you can ask your teacher. And I also want to go ahead and give out the Dojo Point clue for this week. If you will, write down on a piece of paper Captain America. Just write down his name if you want to. You can draw a little shield. You can draw him if you want to, but make sure if you're drawing, you do that at home. Okay, we're not going to waste time in class drawing this, but at least you just need to write down his name and then write down your name. So write Captain America and then write your name under it and hand that piece of paper to your teacher or me, and I can get it to your teacher either way. I just want you guys to get credit for watching this video, okay? So if you have any questions, always ask your teacher, and never give up. Keep trying your best at all times. Don't quit, even when it gets difficult, okay? Have a good week.